Hello, guys. Welcome to tonight's live chat. Looks like everything is working. So I think we are free to just jump in. I see you guys communicating. So glad to see you tonight. I'm glad that I have my YouTube folks tonight. Uh-oh, Instagram is acting up. So let me go ahead and fix that before I jump in. Because I certainly do not want our Instagram people to be out of the loop. So let me make sure I get them started. It has been one of those weeks, guys, where I'm just glad I have my YouTube people, and then it's a real weekend for me after that. Okay, bear with me as I get Instagram reconnected. Come on, Instagram. I do see you guys chatting. I always love to see that. And I want to welcome you guys as well. While I wait on the code for Instagram, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Okay, guys. And then I will bring Instagram into the mix. This topic is something. And one of the reasons why, let me see if I can get it a different way. One of the reasons why this topic is something is because right at the moment that this topic, I put it on my channel. I think I used a post. What's going on here? I used a post in my community center to introduce this topic. Right at the time that I introduced this topic, sadly, we had the school shooting in Georgia that happened at the hands of Cult Gray. And for those of you who are like me, you're into the news, you watch the news, you're following what's going on, you know something, things are always happening in the world. You feel like you need to be on top of it. Those of you who are like that, you most likely saw that. And it actually happened, I think, the day of or the day before Colt Gray entered one of the schools in Georgia and shot, I believe, 2 teachers and 2 students. As more information becomes available, we are learning that not only did the adults fail him and fail society and fail our community, but so too did his parents, unfortunately, and law enforcement, and we can just go down a whole list of people who are responsible. One of the things that we are learning as time goes on is that the shooting was on the line of, if not 100% of, the mindset of wanting to get revenge and wanting to feel vindicated and wanting to get back at people that he felt did not approve of him or accept him or, want to involve him in their group. And what he decided to do was a very foolish thing because he loses in the end, right? And so does Dad at this point. Dad's been charged. But, he's done a very foolish thing. But on top of that, he loses, and so do a lot of other people and some innocent people as well. And so it's a horrible scenario. And so I found it interesting that right around the time that I decided to talk about the psychology of vindictive people and people seeking revenge, that this would happen. I think it was sadly a topic that needed to be discussed around this time. I hope I'm making sense. So bear with me. I do have a migraine, so bear with me. And Instagram is not working for me, guys. I don't know what's wrong. Instagram doesn't like me. Something's up. Something's up. It's not helping me out here. So I will try to get them up and running as we go along. Yeah, DD, I just saw that. I'm going to introduce this topic and talk to you before I welcome you guys, but I just want to highlight DD. DD says, praying for the world. Absolutely. I agree. It's a terrible, terrible tragedy. And I think it just goes to show you that, we are not in a safe world. The world is very different than it used to be, that there are a lot of people who are vindictive and angry and hostile. And we're going to pick and pull that apart. We're not just talking about family members who are toxic and are vengeful and want to get back at people, get back at you. We're talking also about people just in our wider society who are like this. And we're also zoning in on what psychology research and what forensic psychology sees as the big issue here, which is why this is called dark psychology of vindictive people. We're going to delve into some of the forensic psychology research. We're also going to delve in, I think, a little bit to the mind of a vindictive, vengeful person. And then I also want to tease apart healthy versus unhealthy desire to stand up for yourself and get back at people and feel like you've gotten your point across. There are some people who would never harm a fly, but do they feel that rage rise up in them because they feel like, I got to get you back for what you've done to me? That's a possibility. Is vindictive people and people who want to seek revenge good people? I don't know. That's questionable. Research and psychology says that it's questionable. There's many different theories on revenge, getting revenge, feeling vengeful, feeling vindictive. There's various ways that we can look at this topic. But I will say that people who tend to have their first reaction is hostility and anger to anything, and their first reaction that's vindictive or vengeful, those individuals are problematic in our society, because then they end up being the Colt Grays, the Adam Lanzas, right? The Jeffrey Dahmers. I can't think of some of the other serial killers that I've mentioned on this channel recently, but it's difficult to understand them. And I hate to admit that, but being vindictive and vengeful and having this cold-hearted anger, it's a complex process. When I was doing a little bit of research tonight sorry guys, I'm just trying to get into Instagram here. So I'm going to put my password in, but I'm going to still talk to you here. When I was looking up the research on this topic, one of the things that I found out, and I didn't know this, and I feel bad because I should probably know this statistic, and it may be much bigger in today's society, that 61% of school shootings, okay, guys, 61% of school shootings, are the result of being vindictive. Now, this was a research study that was done back in 2015. And I'm going to make sure that I post it in the description box for you. But the research study showed that, they found, the leaders of this research study found that 61% of school shootings is the result of feeling vengeful, needing to get someone back for some kind of perceived injustice, for some kind of perceived slight, some kind of skewed perception of reality. And so the end result has always been, let me put my password in here, guys. Give me 1 second. I don't know what's going on. Yeah, I have no clue. I've practically given up on signing into Instagram for live chats because I don't understand what's going on. I am just going to jump into this topic and I will figure out Instagram as we go along. So, unfortunately, guys, this is not something that is ever going to go away. I think we are going to forever deal with school shootings. We're going to forever deal with serial killers and murderers and sociopaths and psychopaths and narcissists who feel slighted, and they feel that they need to lash out as a result. And that they need to seek revenge. What I'm going to talk about with you guys a little bit later in this live chat is the psychology of the mind. You know, what is it that's happening in the mind of these individuals? And what is psychology saying? What is forensic law saying? What is forensic psychology saying about these individuals? And if they exist in your family, what are some of the behaviors that you are likely to see coming forth in these individuals, right? And so we're going to talk about that as well. Let me highlight some things here, guys, just so that we can start off on a pretty firm foundation here. Vindictive people, according to research and according to my own clinical experience, they tend to be very interpersonally destructive and aggressive. We would call them individuals who engage in relational violence and relational aggression. Now, there are, again, now let me put this out here as a disclaimer. There are some people who have that emotion of, I need to get you back. It rises up in them. It comes up when they feel that they have been mistreated, slighted, harmed, disrespected, disregarded, unloved. The list goes on. We're going to get into that a little bit. Even having some kind of trauma history or childhood trauma can lead to the feeling of wanting to seek revenge. But in this live chat, we're not talking about those people. We're really talking about those individuals who are relationally aggressive and relationally destructive. These individuals cannot strike a balance between what's healthy and what's unhealthy. And this is where things go haywire, because these individuals very much overshoot. They don't know how to sit and have a conversation. They don't know how to talk about their emotions. They don't know how to explore what their own emotions are saying to them. And they really lack the ability to intellectualize, to rationalize, to be logical. They tend to react based on emotion alone and based on a skewed perception of reality. A skewed perception of reality is very scary, right? Because, and I'm going to break this down as we go along in tonight's live chat, it's very scary because a skewed reality can lead to years and years and years of a desire to seek revenge. I have had clients in the past, and I no longer work with these individuals. And I no longer work with these individuals because I completely burned out working with them. But when I was working with them, these individuals can hold a grudge and a desire to seek revenge for a very long time. Some can delay immediate gratification for a very long time. And there has been some research studies on individuals who have murdered, individuals who have had affairs on their partners, done vindictive, vengeful things after 12 years of waiting to do it, after 20 years of waiting to do it. I'm going to make sure I post that information in the description box for you as well. But, the research is very clear that there are individuals who clearly will do something to you after they've waited. If they feel that they are vindicated in doing so, they will do something to you after years upon years upon years of waiting to do it. Not every vindictive person or vengeful individual does something immediately. They can wait for a very, very long time. And that's a very scary thing, right? One reason why I think it's scary is because you may not have a clue that the individual is still holding this grudge, right? You may not even have the slightest clue, any indicators, anything that the individual has said to you. You may not even, sorry guys, there we go. Okay, I think we might be getting somewhere with Instagram, finally, I think, hopefully. You may not even have one iota of a clue that an individual is plotting against you. I'm going to give you a little bit of an example before I go on and then go back to go to the chat box, welcome you guys and answer some questions. But let me just say here that I had a case years ago when I first started. I was studying forensic psychology at the graduate school level. And let me make sure I have you guys. Hold on, guys. There you are. I couldn't see you for a second on my side. I was studying forensic psychology at the graduate level. I was working under a professional who had studied forensic psychology and forensic law. And I absolutely loved that position, but I did burn out. Let me tell you, after 5 years, I burned out. But what I learned while working in this realm of things is there was an individual that came to see me for therapy. I never took him on as a client, but I did talk to him once or twice just to get a feel for what it is that he needed. The scary part about this man is he held a grudge against his mom, and his mom had an affair on his father. Sadly, mom had continued to have multiple affairs throughout their 35 years of being married. The son, who is this man that came to me for treatment, he knew what was going on. He knew how many partners his mom had. He kept a literal kill list of the individuals that his mom had slept with or had some kind of rendezvous with. He kept a list, which was a little notebook. It was a little notebook like this one. Okay. And he kept a whole list. And I remember him bringing it into me for a first appointment. We did an intake. And, I'm asking him questions. I'm trying to fill him out, trying to figure out what's going on. And, I'm looking through these names, and he has at least 15, 20, 25, maybe top number was like 35 partners that his mom had had affairs with. And he had documented these names from 2020. I'm sorry, I'm going to go back to 2024. So 2024 to 2022. So 2004 to 2022, if I can get my dates right. He documented over that span of time, count it up, guys, that's a lot, 2004 to 2022. So he went beyond COVID time, okay? And he documented the various things that he wanted to do to each individual. He is now sitting in prison for the rest of his life because of the acts of vengeance that he took upon all 40, little less than 40, of his mother's partners. And it took him between 2004, her first affair, to 2022. He waited that long before he executed his plan. It was the scariest thing that I had ever read in a notebook, the most detailed plan I had ever seen in my life. It was the best, if you will, quote unquote, the best learning experience of criminal behavior that I've ever had. Because what it showed me is he not only delayed instant gratification for those many years, 2004 to 2022, but he also wrote down the various things that he wanted to do. Imagine the level of obsession, right, that he existed with, the level of rumination. We're going to talk about this within your family, in relationships, the level of rumination, which is that repeated obsessive train of thought that never goes away. It never goes away. It's like this repeated pattern of obsessive thinking that is hard to kind of derail. Consider somebody who's constantly reliving an experience over and over and over. Rumination is kind of like that. It is the experience of pondering over and over something that is negative, something that is hurtful, painful, shameful, something that just kind of stays on your heart and on your chest as a burden. So imagine all those years, right, that he ruminated about this and obsessed about it, and he executed his plan in 2022. So he's going to be in there for the rest of his life. I won't, because the case is I'm going to say it's pretty popular in my area. I'm not going to go through it, but I will see if I can post some information in the description box for you so that you can read that story on your own. Let me also say, before I go to the chat box, guys, that vindictive people are people who seek revenge, whether it's a family member, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a husband, a wife, a co-worker situation, maybe friends. I don't know if I already said that, but let me highlight that these kind of vindictive individuals can sometimes view a relationship as an investment. And when a person looks at a relationship as a complete investment, that means that they are really holding the relationship at a very important level. It's a very important, I guess I'm just gonna, say investment. I was gonna find another word for you guys, but I think you understand where I'm going with this. It's a very important investment. And so if they perceive any kind of slights, anger, any kind of betrayal, whatever, it is possible that the individual can seek vengeance or become very vindictive because the relationship they have seen as an investment. So you've done something majorly difficult to them, and so at least they perceive it that way. We're going to get into that in a little bit as well. And that's what causes the vengeful or the vindictive behavior, and it can be a very devastating experience. So, okay, let me pause here. I'm going to go to the chat box, welcome you guys, answer some questions, try to figure out my Instagram, and then, guys, I want to take you through processing what's going on here with these family members, with these friends, with the person I've dated or married. What's going on here? Why are they so vindictive? Why can't they just let it go? Why are they so vengeful? Then I'm going to tell you what forensic psychology and forensic law says is the possible reason why these individuals behave the way that they do. And then I also want to give you, from my clinical experience, some insights on the behaviors that you are likely to observe or have observed. Okay, guys? So let me go to the chat box here. Let me welcome Kat Sushi. So glad to have you in tonight's live chat. Haven't seen you for a little while. Welcome to tonight's live chat. Glad to have you. I'm actually going to connect Instagram. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm going to connect Instagram to, how do I do this? I'm going to connect Instagram using my phone. So bear with me for just 1 second. Don't know if I can do that. I don't know. I need a pro. I need somebody that can tell me how to make Instagram be nice, because we're not getting along here. Cam, I'm just gonna go through this. Cam, hello and welcome. Glad to have you in tonight's live chat. I like when you guys spend Fridays here as well. So glad you feel that way. Eclone Jitto 99. Hello. Hope all is well with you. I haven't seen you in a while. Welcome to tonight's live chat. A seat at the King's Table with Tanisha. Welcome, welcome. Doing well. I have a little bit of a migraine here, which is why I'm a little scattered, but thank you for asking. I hope you're doing well. Happy Friday to you. Deb, hello. I consider you the mom of YouTube chats. Welcome. Glad to have you back in tonight's live chat. Tammy Nicely, hello, good evening to you. Welcome. Louis S., nice to see you. Welcome, welcome. All right, there's a lot of you on here tonight. Give it a think. Hello, welcome. Glad to have you in tonight's live chat. Hola to you. T Mac, hello. Thank God it is Friday. Thank God it is Friday. I know. I feel the same way. I said that to somebody today in the grocery store. They were like, how are you? I'm like, oh God, thank God it's Friday. I barely made it. Thank God. Ryan, hello and welcome. I haven't seen you in a while. Welcome, welcome. Glad to have you in tonight's live chat. Ryan says, I am crying because my evil family members had me misdiagnosed and ruined my life overnight, and then taken away from my dog, during which they used the opportunity to traumatize and abuse him gravely. That's really sad. I'm very sorry to hear that. I'm very sorry to hear that. Let me say that evil family members can, and I don't want you to think, Brian, that this is what is happening to you. I'm just mentioning this just to tie it back into the topic of tonight's chat, that evil family members can be very vindictive because their ultimate goal as vindictive, vengeful people is to get back at you. And sometimes they wait until that very moment that you absolutely need them to seek that revenge, right? Or to be vindictive. So And let me just throw that out there, that sometimes what we think is a chance situation or some kind of situation that just happened out of the blue, it may not be. It may be a family member who's had a grudge against you for a while. And so now they get a chance to execute it because you're needy. That's just another way to look at that. Fifi LaFleur, hello, welcome. Glad to have you back in tonight's live chat. DD, so glad to have you back. I read your comment earlier about praying for this world. It is a very, very chaotic time. I can very much see that. Betsy, hello and welcome. Glad to have you in tonight's live chat. Annie Welker, hello and happy Friday to you. I love that. I love that. That's so cute. Friday. I feel all of that. Adila, hello. Happy Friday to you as well. Thank you so much, Cam. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you for that. Thank you. Jessica J, hello and welcome. Glad to have you back in tonight's live chat. Yeah, absolutely. It has been a very scary week. Let me just share with those of you that and I like sharing some of my professional experiences and stories, if I can, in the most confidential way that I can, the most ethical way that I can, because I think it kind of gives you an opportunity to see life through my lens for a second. So Jessica J, I'm going to pull from that by you saying it's been a scary week, because I have literally since Monday was Labor Day, Tuesday I went back to work. It was a little bit of a chill day up until 5 o'clock when I went into the office. And I literally had 2 phone calls from 2 local school districts who wanted me to come in and assess some of the kids, because some of the kids had threatened suicide. Some of the kids had threatened revenge suicide. We're going to talk about that in a little bit as well. And some of the kids also threatened to bomb the school in my local area because of what happened with, is it Colin Gray? I feel like I'm mispronouncing his name, and I don't want to do that. He wanted to be a criminal. He's a criminal. I want to make sure that he gets all the criminal attention that he got. I really can't. I can't remember his name. Now you guys know how I am when I have a migraine. I don't know. Somebody remind me of his name. I said it earlier and I can't remember. Colt Gray. There we go. Colt Gray. I think that's it. So there were a lot of kids that reacted this week, and sadly, those calls came to me first thing on Tuesday. The kids were struggling with having to go back to school. Labor Day hit. They didn't want to go back to school, so there was a lot going on with them Tuesday. Wednesday, then the Wednesday came, then Thursday, and here we are Friday, and it's just gotten worse as of today. So it has been a very scary week. It has been. I very much agree with that. I feel like I said earlier, this topic is proper and in place for what's going on in the world right now. Triple Lex, hello and welcome. Glad to see you. Thank you for mentioning Ted Bundy. He's another one. Yeah. Yep. Thank you for mentioning that as well, Triple X. Yep, absolutely. And if you guys literally search up mass shootings or mass school shootings in the United States, you're going to see Adam Lanza, you're going to see James Holmes, okay, you're going to see Colt Gray, you're going to see Brandon Michael Hill. There's been a lot of young individuals who are male who are sadly, and I'm going to mention this, they tend to be white young males who go into schools and they seek revenge in this manner. And this is just kind of the repeated history over time. And forensic psychology has highlighted that point, which I'll make sure that I post that in the description box as well, because I think it's important to highlight that this is an MO. Okay, this is not a chance thing. This is just not a random kid who's been bullied and they want to seek vengeance. No, this is a repeated pattern in history in the United States. 61% of those school shootings have been done by a particular race, by a particular age, by a male, and it's been a vengeful or vindictive behavior. And so there's been some concrete research to back that up. We're going to get into that just a little bit so you guys can understand what this looks like. Black girls getting their shift together. Hello and welcome back. Glad to see you in tonight's live chat. Reality is simulated. Existence on the Rise channel. Woo, that's long. Woo, that's a lot for my migraine tonight. Welcome, welcome. Glad to have you on tonight's live chat, and you're welcome. And thank you for saying that. Glad to have you. Welcome. Stacy Del Buccia, I probably messed that up. I'm so sorry. Welcome to tonight's live chat. Glad to have you. Stacy says, it is challenging dealing with these evil, toxic ones. I feel they are lacking love in the heart. That could be part of it, but we're going to get into in just a second here what's really going on. Could they be lacking love at the heart? Yes. Is that an oversimplified way of looking at this evil? Sometimes. We really need to delve into why are there people in our lives that are vindictive, that are evil, that are cunning, that are vengeful. Why do you have to get even? Why do you have to hit back? We don't always have to hit back. And there's literally research that focuses on the consequences over history of hitting back, getting revenge, being vindictive, and there really isn't any benefit. And that's the scary part, right? It's and I'm going to mention this a little bit later as we talk about the psychology of these kind of people in your life, but they do these things to achieve not only a sense of power and control, but enjoyment, right? Some people feel like if I could just seek vengeance on that person over there, Lucy over there had an affair with my husband. If I could just have an affair with her husband or somehow paint an ugly picture of her in the community, I am going to sleep better tonight. Research suggests that that never happens. Never happens. And as a matter of fact, the person who seeks revenge or they are vindictive and they seek to get the other person back, they actually end up suffering. I am going to button this, okay? Because I feel like I may have a wardrobe malfunction. But research suggests that these individuals tend to seek revenge, but they never get that pleasure in return. It never happens. Even with Adam Lanza, James Holmes, Colt Gray, he's on his way to prison forever, and his dad's right behind him. And many individuals that I've counseled, they've ended up in prison. They've ended up in jail, charged, convicted. The list goes on because they thought seeking revenge and being vindictive was the way to go. When the reality is that you actually lose in the end. You just don't know how you're going to lose. And you may believe you're not going to lose because the feeling of whatever perceived slight that there is, that feeling outweighs the fact that the consequences may not be wonderful. And so we're going to get into that too in a little bit here. Mom Tude, glad to have you back on tonight's live chat. Welcome, welcome. Glad to see you. Glad to see you. And let me go back to something here. I'm gonna put this up on the screen. Yeah, great. You're talking about Colt Gray? Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people feel like you. That's anger, hostility. It's how could you? Well, because there's something going on, and we're going to get to that. Shannon Duncan, hello and welcome. Oh my God, that little cutie. If that's a real photo, oh my God, he's cute. Welcome to tonight's live chat. Glad to have you. Sadie Smith, glad to have you in tonight's live chat. Arrow, hello. Welcome. Glad to have you. Says spite is different to vengeance. Yes, it is. Agree. I can break that down if you need me to. James McDonald, glad to have you back from the UK. Welcome. All right, let's jump in. I'm going to continue to welcome you guys, read your comments as we go along. Let's jump in, okay? So what's going on here? Well, here's what psychology says are a few reasons, and I've actually seen this clinically. So this is scary just to see it clinically. But here's what psychology says, and here's what I've seen. Self-protection is one. Self-protection. Consider it. Let's say, for example, someone in your family, someone you've dated, someone you've married, somebody you know, maybe even a neighbor, a close friend, cousin, whatever. Let's say that they have an issue with you. because something happened yesterday or last year or years ago that you didn't even see as a problem. But this vindictive individual feels that they need to defend themselves, get back at you, be angry, talk about you behind your back, say things about you that's not true, lie about you. We're going to talk about families who lie tomorrow, but they lie about you. They may even be pathological liars. They're manipulators, right? They're trying to self-protect. Whatever their skewed perception of reality is, or whatever the reason for their need to seek vengeance or be vindictive against you, whatever the case may be, it's a form, according to psychology, of self-protection for some people. Now, is that form of self-protection vindicated? Should it be vindicated? Should it be supported? Should it be understood, considered, kind of, minimized to, okay, we can understand it? Should it be something that we should say is understandable? Maybe. But self-protection that goes against the grains of what is socially acceptable is a problem. Self-perception, or I'll put it this way, self-perception, I'm sorry, guys, self-perception can be so skewed that the individual cares nothing about the consequences, because in that moment, in that time, you've done something, whether you have or not, and they feel they need to get you back for that. The next thing psychology says could be the issue is jealousy, envy, which we've talked a lot about these last couple of weeks, and competitiveness. So jealousy, envy, and competitiveness. You have an individual that wants everything that you have. They wish they were in your shoes. They feel like you're doing better than them, or you're smarter than them, or you're more handsome or pretty than them, or you get more positive experiences in your life than they do. So they're competitive, they're jealous, they're envious. You do something, or maybe you don't do anything at all. Their mind twists reality, and they feel the need to come at you. Vindictive individual, vengeful individual, may be competitive, may be jealous of you, may be envious. Psychology also says interpersonal aloofness. Interpersonal aloofness can also be a reason for vindictive behavior and vengeful behavior. I have absolutely no idea how a relationship goes. I have no ability to understand that in a relationship, there's losses and there's wins, and I need to suck it up and move on, right? There may also be a situation where the individual has to learn to accept reality that maybe you did offend them, but that's not the end of the world. Maybe you did offend them, and maybe you didn't know you offended them. Maybe you didn't mean it the way they took it. They don't have the ability to reason that way. They are very interpersonally aloof. And that can also mean, and psychology has also backed this concept up as well, that interpersonal aloofness can also be, I have absolutely no social skills. I'm totally lacking in social skills. So I don't understand what the right response should be or how to respond in this particular situation. So what I do is react, because that's all that makes sense to me. That's all that makes sense to me. Reenactment trauma can also cause a person to become vindictive or vengeful. Reenactment trauma could be, I feel like something has happened to me now that has happened to me in the past. And so therefore I'm reacting out of that past experience. That what happened to me in my past is so traumatic that now I'm kind of recreating it in my world now. And my experience right now feels like it did back then, and I don't like that feeling. And so in order to get on top of this feeling that makes me feel submerged, helpless, angry, hostile, vengeful, vindictive, I'm just going to do something to get that person back, right? Or I'm going to do something to somehow stir chaos, Think about the Timothy McVeighs, for example. Think of that. An individual who went into a daycare and blew it up. It had nothing whatsoever to do with those innocent babies, but he had to do it, right? And so reenactment trauma can sometimes be involved in that psychotic skewed reality that I need to do something to stir something, I need to do something because I feel slighted in my life. A personalized example may be, let's say, for example, you're in a relationship with someone and you guys are close friends, or you are dating, or you're married, and let's say they feel they can never meet your expectations. It's not that you're the problem, it's that they feel some kind of internalized slight or insecurity, or they have a lack of confidence. They feel like they don't meet you where you're at. They can automatically turn against you and you not even know it's happening. That can start by giving you the cold shoulder, being very passive aggressive with you. It could be having an affair on you and not telling you, taking your money and manipulating everything that belongs to you, not breaking up with you or divorcing you or letting you go, but just holding on to you and continuing the chaos all around you. An individual who feels that they are somehow re-experiencing a past issue, they can just get it in their mind like that this is my moment to strike, and they're going to strike. Psychology research and clinical studies on vindictive people also shows that, sometimes vengeful behavior can be a form of interpersonal avoidance. It's, I'm not going to talk to you. I'm not going to process this logically. And I really don't want to feel the emotions that comes along with this relationship. So I'm just going to act. And the moment I see that I need to act, I'm going to act and I'm going to react. And so my way of avoiding pain and avoiding this relationship, of avoiding something that makes me feel inadequate, I'm going to be vindictive. I'm going to get you back. I'm going to make life hard on you. I'm going to keep you confused. I know you guys know people like that. I'm going to keep you confused. I'm going to keep you guessing. I'm going to keep you on your toes. I'm never going to give you a dull moment to think, to process, to rest. I'm going to do all I can to make life uncomfortable for you. Psychology also says that there is something to motivated retaliation after a perceived threat. Right? There's something that motivates that individual because of a perceived threat. That perceived threat may or may not be true. Consider, and I had an individual like this years ago, consider an individual who's going through a psychosis. They may be hearing and seeing things that are not really there. They may be having quote unquote sensory experiences or spiritual experiences that cannot be explained. And it can't even be proven, but they're having them. They're hearing and seeing things, feeling things, experiencing an alternate reality. The individual may also have a delusional belief system that the FBI is out to get them, that you're with the FBI, that they are being followed. The list goes on. Those examples describes sometimes a motivation for retaliation. I am feeling vulnerable. I am feeling attacked. I'm in a state of psychosis. I'm in a state of delusional thinking. I'm in a state of skewed reality. And so now that's what's pushing my buttons to retaliate, to become vindictive, to become vengeful. I am now going to do what I need to do because I feel like I'm in a position that I need to do it. And none of it may or may not be true. Even if it is true, the reasoning is based on a perception that is not a healthy perception. We can't leave out mental illness, guys, behavioral problems, and a history of being bullied. That also is often a motivation for vengeance and feeling like they need to get even with you or other people. There's also a term that we use more so with people who are on the autism spectrum, but we can also use this in other areas. The word is perseveration. Psychology says that sometimes people who seek vengeance, or they're very vindictive, they feel like they need to get even when it's not even appropriate. Some people want to get even with people in authority and in authoritative positions, and that's a no-no. You just probably shouldn't even touch that area. But when you're motivated by perseveration, it can happen. Perseveration is basically like rumination. It's this obsessive form of thinking. And the mind just kind of cycles over and over and over and over. And sometimes that perseveration isn't just on that perceived threat, slight, whatever they feel they need to get even with you for. The perseveration may not be about that. The perseveration can simply be on what they're going to do to hurt you, right? They may, look at guns for the next 5 years and figure out which one they want to use, or they may perseverate on learning how to shoot a gun, and decide to use it one day. They may, excuse me, guys, they may perseverate on going to your boss and telling your boss some lies about you, sending an anonymous email to your boss, right? So perseveration is often a big thing with these individuals. Let me also say that some of the research also shows that intentionality, whether that person feels they're being slighted intentionally or unintentionally, never matters. It's always rumination or perseveration that is the strongest predictor of a person wanting to be vindictive and seek vengeance. Rumination or perseveration. It's never the severity of the act, and it's never really the intentionality of the act. An individual may sit in front of me in a therapy session and say, I don't care what her intention was, whether it was accidental or on purpose, I'm still getting her back. For me as a clinician with authority, that's my 911 phone call. That's my phone call to the crisis support center. That's my, have the police go investigate this person phone call, But some people, they don't care about whether something was intentional or unintentional. The biggest predictor of somebody seeking revenge in whatever fashion, whatever tool they may use, is perseveration and rumination, that obsessive train of thought that never gets interrupted. That is the biggest predictor of vengeance. That's the sad part. That's the sad part, guys. Let me go to the chat box. I'm going to come back and let you guys know what psychology says about this. Why is this happening and what's going on here? So these are what we just went through are the different reasons as to why an individual may become vengeful or vindictive. But now I want to give you some information on why these people feel that they have a right to be this way, right? And then I'm going to give you some information on the behaviors and signs that you may have seen in your own relationships. Okay. All right. Let me catch a second one, guys. Shannon Duncan says they believe everyone and everything is out to get them. Yes. That's a very good point. And I just went over that, right, guys? When we talked about motivated retaliation, that motivation to retaliate is the result of feeling that they are the victim. Let me highlight, and I probably should have added this earlier, narcissism. Narcissism is a big factor here. You guys may think that most people who want to seek revenge or they want to get back at you or get even, you may think those are psychopaths and sociopaths alone, but it isn't. Research suggests that narcissists, a high percentage, I want to make sure I put that article in the description box for you. A high percentage of narcissists tend to be vindictive. Why? Because number one, they feel that they should be treated with special treatment, right? They're special. You got to make sure you say the right thing, do the right thing. You have to make sure that you give them what they want. Make sure that you don't tell that secret. Make sure that you don't step on their toes. Don't call them out. Don't put them in a position where they feel beneath you, because the narcissist tends to be the vindictive, vengeful individual. A narcissistic injury is what we would also call it. If you injure their ego, watch, because they tend to be vindictive individuals. Cam says, is the waiting part of the game a shock factor that they enjoy? Sick. Well, sometimes research in psychology does suggest that sometimes that waiting period, right? That time between when they feel they've been hurt and when they act out, maybe 20 years, 25 years, that time frame. Is that waiting period a game? Sometimes. Is that waiting period the fact that things haven't lined up for them? Possibly. An example of this is cult gray. Consider some of the details that are coming out. And I'm sure some of the details are kind of all over the place and skewed, but I'm going off of the people that I know that live in Georgia, some of my coworkers who work in Georgia that have told me about this case that they're also working on, that here's what happened. For many years, he was a problem child. And it wasn't just like he just woke up one day and thought, I'm going to go to school and shoot it up. No, he was vindictive. He had a plan. He had a weapon that was furnished to him by his own father. And he had problems, and he had been investigated and questioned years prior to this. I think he had been questioned from the ages of, to what my understanding is, from the ages of 10 to his now age. He was on the radar. Consider how many years that is, right? 3 to 4 years he was on the radar of police, school officials, even other parents that were in that school that had concerns about him. So, it's a scary thing, right? That waiting period could just mean I don't have everything I need to act out. And he was on the radar because he had done some questionable things in the past, including a bomb threat to the school, but he needed dad to buy him a gun so that he could then execute his plan. And dad did that, I think, this past Christmas of 2023, I think. And so there you have it. He had everything he needed. And so sometimes, Cam, to get back to your point, that waiting period is sometimes the result of not having all the tools at the time. And that's a scary thing too, because we need to act. We need to act as soon as somebody gets on our radar that's vengeful or problematic. Love Logic, hello and welcome to tonight's very complicated chat. Glad to have you. Good evening to you. Glad to see you. China, hello and welcome to tonight's live chat. Glad to have you. It says, just because they do get revenge doesn't mean that they are satisfied, especially if you bounce back from it. Exactly. You are forever indebted to these people. I have a sister like this. Yes, very much so. No, if you bounce back and you're not harmed, or you're not killed, or your boss doesn't fire you, or you don't end your marriage over that affair, that person, okay, just know, and this is backed by psychology research as well, that person is likely to either continue to seek revenge to see if they can finally get you, or they go away in hostility, holding that anger, and they have to sit with that anger. And it somehow comes out at some point, not necessarily towards that individual. It could just come out on society, But you're right. Sometimes they don't get the pleasure from that getting you back that they think that they're going to get. Keep in mind, these people have a skewed perception of reality. Imagine waking up every day in a skewed perception of reality. We wake up every day, we see the sun out, right? We all have a different way we perceive life. We have a different way that we think about life when we get up every day, right? But here's what makes us very different from each other. Our perception of that day, of reality, of other people in our lives is vastly different. And so imagine waking up with a skewed perception of reality that this person's out to get me, that today is another day for me to perseverate, to obsess about, to ruminate on how I'm going to hurt A, B, and C over there. Today is not just a fresh start. It's not just a new day. It's not a day I need to get up and go to work. It's a day that I get to get up, sit, process how I'm going to hurt you back, right? And these kind of individuals think that way. Nancy R., hello and welcome to tonight's live chat. Glad to have you. As always, Dwayne Brogus. I always mess your last name up. I apologize for that. Welcome. Glad to have you tonight. Ryan, I'm going to read your comment, okay? Ryan says, like I said, my vengeance is going to be through due process in the court system. My dog and I are moving away. My dad had an affair with a woman who abused my dog, and we are going to get legal. I get you. There's anger, there's pain, there's all of that. I totally get that, Ryan. I always tell my clients that vengeance and retaliation is not the way to go, because you're not going to always win. But if you need justice and you want to see if you can gain justice, then the legal system, I guess, is the best way to go. But just know that may not be it, and you need to let it go if it's not. Sunkiss Diva 01, hello and welcome back to tonight's live chat. Triple X. I'm not going to put up that curse word, watch, because I don't want YouTube to silence you. I don't want them to do that, because then I lose you. Cat Sushi's like, oh my God, what's going on? James McDonald says, antisocial personality disorder, sociopaths and psychopaths tend to be the most dangerous personality types who will go to all lengths to get vengeance. Yeah, and narcissists. And a narcissist. Let's add that in there. He goes on to say that the scary thing is these type of individuals are not always that easy to spot. No, they are not. No, they're not. They're not easy to spot. They're also not easy to identify in a court of law or even in a clinical setting. Not every client that comes to me is an innocent one. Sometimes a client can come to me, sit down on the couch knowing that the only reason they're coming to therapy is that they need to understand how the mind works, how they can get around other people, the type of things that they can learn about human behavior by using themselves, so that they can then leave therapy and go seek vengeance. I'm sure you guys, and I don't know, maybe I shouldn't say I'm sure, but maybe I'll put it this way. Maybe some of you didn't know that that's how it works. But sometimes if you have a very narcissistic individual, they're not there for themselves. They're there to understand other people so that they can then hurt that other person. Let me also say that you may be in a relationship with or have a family member or be married to somebody who simply goes to therapy or simply goes to the legal system to sound a trumpet that they have been violated in some way. They don't see themselves as the problem at all. They see you as the absolute problem. And they're trying to find a way to make sure that you are told that you are the problem. And a therapist can do that if they're unexperienced or inexperienced. A therapist can do that, and so too can a court of law. And so sometimes that's why vindictive narcissists will sometimes pull in therapy and the legal system, because they want that other individual, that judge, that attorney, that jury, that therapist, that doctor, that psychiatrist to tell you that you're wrong, not that they are wrong. Reality is simulated existence on the Rise channel. Ooh, that gets me every time. Let me read this, because this is something that we can talk about as well. Says, I would love to hear you speak on the vindictive person on YouTube who turns from being a fan into being a stalker, who works relentlessly to destroy the person they once adored but now feel rejected. Yeah, absolutely. I've had those people in the past. Yeah, those individuals, vindictive, can't stand rejection. They're what we would call a rejected stalker. Rejected stalkers tend to be individuals who seek a certain level of intimacy that they're never going to get. They tend to be the bullied individuals in school. They tend to be the ones that may or may not have ever had a friend or a date. They tend to be the individual who sees themselves a certain way, yet other people don't see them in the same light, which causes other people to reject them. They may be the individuals who only feel comfortable communicating online. They don't have, communication with people in their life. They only exist on the internet. These kind of individuals are considered rejected stalkers, and they tend to be pretty unstable. I do have a video on my channel that I did 2 to 3 years ago on rejected stalkers. So go ahead and search my channel for that, because that video explains in detail what rejected stalkers are like. Rejected stalkers also tend to be narcissists, and they sometimes are psychopaths, individuals who have absolutely no empathy, and they don't have the ability to have what we call cognitive empathy. They don't have the ability to conceptualize that you may feel a certain way if they approach you a certain way. They can't reason that out. They just can't. They tend to be very reactive. So look for my video on the channel. That should be helpful. Nancy R says, my sister-in-law is good at being vindictive. She changed my relationships. Yes, a vindictive person in your life, a family member, can sometimes have the most power over you because they have the most information on you. You know, pathological liars, which we're going to talk about tomorrow in tomorrow's live chat, same deal, guys. Pathological liars, they can lie because, and if they're in your family, they can lie at the best possible level that you can imagine, because, if that made any sense, that you can imagine, because they know everything just about that they need to know about you. And they sometimes have what they need to know about you through the grapevine, right? Your mom talking about you, your dad, your sibling, whatever. So family members can be the worst when it comes to being vindictive and when it comes to changing how other people see you, you know? Angel Warrior, hello and welcome to tonight's live chat. Glad to have you. So thank you for sharing your insight on these issues. I appreciate you. You're welcome. You're welcome. And thank you for saying that. I'm glad this is helpful. MN Odell, hello and welcome to tonight's live chat. Always glad to see you there. Q Quit Award 1. I probably messed up. I messed up. Forgive me. I have a migraine. Welcome to tonight's live chat. Glad to have you back. DD says, I noticed that some of my family waited for me to become an adult to start snapping on me. They didn't walk over me as a child for the sake of my mom serving them a spicy 2-piece. Wow. Ouch. Some vindictive, evil people will wait until you get of age. You know, there's a case that happened to my coworker's client, and I can speak on this because the individual is now in prison. He was 15 years old when his best friend started dating his girlfriend. Their relationship, so the client who was 15 had a girlfriend, and his relationship with her was on the rocks. And his relationship with her was on the rocks because of his antisocial behavior. She became attracted to his best friend. When the 15-year-old found this out, let me tell you, came to my client, and I know this case through the grapevine because this coworker came to me for advice on how to handle this whole thing. But the 15-year-old sought revenge. And what he did, and this is kind of to your point, DD. I'm going to put your comment back up here for a second. What he did is the 15-year-old befriended his friend, and he became even closer to his friend and really close and really engaged in his friend's life until his friend hit 18 and he hit 18. When his friend hit 18 and the 15-year-old, when he became 18 as well, what he did is he turned around and did the ugliest thing. So he went onto his friend's social media at 15 years old when he found out that his girlfriend was having an affair. He went on his friend's social media, downloaded photos, downloaded videos of his now ex-girlfriend with his friend, okay? Being intimate, holding hands, right? You know, engaging in sexting and other behaviors like that. He waited until he hit 18 years old, and he waited until his friend hit 18 to publicize to their high school those photos and those videos. And where do you think he is today? He is serving a very, very long time in prison for gaining access to his friend's information without permission, befriending his friend for the next 3 years of his life before going public, and then hoarding. He had thousands of photos and videos between, he and his friend kind of talking about this girl and, communicating. He went public when they hit 18 years of age, and he is now serving a very hefty sentence because he took those photos and videos public when he hit 18. He waited until they became adults to seek that revenge. What he didn't understand, and this is where vindictive people lose. What he didn't understand, guys, is that he was going to suffer. He wasn't going to seek that revenge and feel that pleasure he was looking for. He is going to spend at least 35 years behind bars. So he's never going to see the light of day as a youth. That's for sure. Sunkiss Diva 01 says, I know someone that tried to destroy my romantic relationship over my addressing her for her wrong. She said nothing until months later when she covertly and devilishly betrayed me. Yeah. Yep. Sometimes they will wait. Lindsay Marie, hello and welcome to tonight's live chat. Says, I hope everyone is doing well. Don't forget to like the live. Thank you so much for that. That's so sweet. Thank you. Star, hello and welcome. Happy Friday to you. Longevity Rituals, hello and welcome. Says, oh my God, just realized the time. We're not even close to wrapping up, guys. I'm going to get back on to the content in just a second here. Silabi, I probably messed that up. Hello and welcome. Glad to see you in tonight's live chat. DD says, grateful to be here. So glad to hear that. Beautifully heard. Good evening to you. Welcome to the live chat. Longevity Ritual says, I'm dealing with a vindictive situation from 13 years ago. Yes. Yes. Thank you so much. Mouse Swift. Maui Swift. I'm sorry about that. And you're always here, and I totally messed that up. Yes, thank you for that. Colt is his name. Thank you for that. Yeah, Timothy McVeigh, Triple Lex says. Yep, we talked about him just a little bit ago. Okay, MNL Odell, you're my last comment before I go back to the content, says all of 14, and he pretty much destroyed all those lives. Yeah. He had been questioned. Yep. He had been questioned prior. Heartbreaking that he still had weapons. Yeah, absolutely it is. Very much agree. Okay, let's get back to the content. So why do these people act this way, guys? Well, let's talk about what research says. Here's what research says, that there tends to be two negative forms of affect. Gottman, and I'm going to make sure I post his information in the description box. Gottman did a paper in 1993. He highlighted two negative affective states that tends to happen with an individual who likes to seek revenge. The first affective state was what he called a hurt perceived attack. I want to make sure I'm giving you the correct thing. A hurt perceived attack. Basically, fear and worry. I've been hurt. I've been cut off. I've been wronged. I've been treated this kind of a way. Their perception of how they've been treated. That's one negative affective state. The second affective state, which tends to lead people to revenge, it leads people to revenge. I probably should drink some water. Excuse me, guys, a dry spot there. He found that the second type, which was contempt and anger, that's the second negative affective type, that affective state alone tended to lead to wanting to seek revenge and being vindictive more than feeling hurt, more than feeling let down, or more than feeling like somebody has wronged them and they are hurt and crushed and they need to get you back. No, he says the second affective state, which is contempt and anger, tended to be behind, in his paper, the vengeance and the vindictive behavior that he observed. So that's one train of thought, that contempt and anger tends to be the number one thing that pushes people to seek revenge and to be very vindictive. Vengeful ruminations is the second theory in research that says people who have ruminations, and not just any kind of ruminations, vengeful ruminations, tends to be a part of the reason why these individuals become vindictive. Vengeful ruminations would be something like, I will be glad when I can get that person back with this gun. I'll be glad when I can drive my car into that person's living room window. I'll be glad when I can finally talk to my sister's boss so I can get her fired from the job she worked so hard to get. Ruminating or waking up the next day with this obsessive train of thought that I'm going to make sure that I have an affair with my brother's girlfriend so I can get him back for all the times that he pushed me in the background. Or I'm going to make sure that I am the reason why my cousin's wedding is a flop, right? It is vengeful ruminations that also tends to be at the core of these individuals. This is what research is suggesting. It's not just I'm obsessively thinking about the person or what they did to me. It's I'm obsessively thinking about what I'm going to do. Consider that. The more you think about the evil that you want to do to somebody else, how much bigger does it get, right? It becomes catastrophized. It becomes exaggerated. It becomes huge in your mind. It becomes an obsession, a center stage issue that nobody else is thinking about but you. But that's kind of how you cope. That's kind of how you cope, okay? So this is the vengeful individual. Research also suggests, and I said this earlier, that offense severity has nothing to do with it. Vengeful ruminations tends to be the number one factor for causing somebody to want to seek revenge. Offense severity doesn't seem to have any kind of weight. What I mean by offense severity is the severity of the offense. So the individual may not even care. Let's say, for example, your brother wants to seek revenge on you by ruining your happy marriage, your happy home life, the people in the community who respect you because he's jealous of you. You know, he's always wanted everything that you have. So instead of supporting you and being proud of you, he now wants to be vindictive. He now wants to seek revenge because he's jealous of you. So there's nothing that you've done to him intentionally. That doesn't matter. There's nothing that you have done to him that's of a severe level. All you've done to him in his eyes is achieve, and that is enough. That is enough. That is enough to cause an individual to want to seek vengeance upon you. So keep that in mind, guys, that vengeful ruminations is often the cause, often the motivator, and also the severity of the offense often has nothing to do with it. Some people, if you don't hold the door open in a place of business for somebody that's walking in behind you, you know, because you're thinking or you're trying to figure out what you're going in that store to get, you just, didn't even think to hold the door open. You're going on about your life. That person is left behind you with the door shutting, and then now they have to open the door to let themselves in. And so now they're considering what you've done, whether you have intentionally done it or not, whether you feel you don't need to, that you don't owe them anything. You don't need to hold the door open. They don't care about that. It's rumination. I can't believe that person didn't hold the door open for me. What am I, an invisible person? I never get respect. I'm never looked at as some person in society. This takes me back to when my sister treated me A, B, and C, right? And then their mind goes down this whole process. And there you are, just a stranger going into a grocery store trying to get what you need to get for your family. And the person who wants to seek revenge or be vindictive against you is behind you thinking of different ways that they can hurt you before you leave the store. So this is just an example. Okay, guys? Let me also mention revenge suicide. I know that you guys have most likely heard about it. For those of you who haven't, revenge suicide is this. I'm going to threaten suicide. I'm going to commit suicide for the simple fact of getting back at you. Oh, you divorced mom? I'm going to commit suicide on the day of the divorce. Or I'm going to threaten to commit suicide every Friday. I once had a kid like this. A kid that came to me for therapy was a complete headache to her mom, complete headache to her dad. She wasn't depressed. She wasn't anxious. She wasn't traumatized. She didn't have PTSD. She didn't have a bad home. She was actually a rich kid. Her dad made a ton of money, worked for the Steelers. You guys who are familiar with football, worked for the Steelers, okay? Worked for, I believe he also worked for the Giants. He was just a fantastic sports advocate, coach. The list goes on, okay? So he had a lot of money. Mom didn't need to work. You know, she had it made. She had everything she ever wanted. She was given everything. But my assessment of that case to this day, and this was about 5-6 years ago, my assessment, guys, of that case to this day is a revenge suicide, because what she did, I'm going to say a revenge suicide attempt. She didn't succeed. She tried. Because here's what happened. She felt that her home life wasn't exactly what she wanted it to be. She wanted something. She was told no multiple times. She got upset with mom and started cutting herself on her arms and legs, started cutting her hair, started shaving her eyebrows. You know, the list goes on. She got a tattoo without permission. Then she started tattooing her face, got her face tattooed, her neck, everything on her body was tattooed but her toe. Okay, guys, like she literally went full force into vengeance mode just because she was told no. She was clearly a narcissistic individual in the making, okay? But what she did is attempted suicide. And she didn't do it for the simple fact that she was depressed, she was angry, she felt neglected, none of that. She wrote in her diary before she attempted the suicide attempt that didn't kill her. She's actually living with a disability because the attempt failed. But here's what she said in her journal. The journal said, and it read clearly, it was underlined with pink, green, orange highlighter pen and underlined with a black mark: revenge. Why? Because mom and dad said no to something that she truly, truly wanted. And so the confession was, this is a revenge suicide. She didn't succeed, thank God, but that's what she was doing. A revenge suicide is a suicide that is completed. It is done. It is final, for the simple fact of wanting to hurt somebody else, to get back at them, to make them second guess themselves, to make them blame themselves. It's a way to force their hand. Let me also mention too, before we go to the next session, the next section of this, which is the behaviors you're likely to see. Let me also mention there's a cultural evolution here as well when it comes to vengeance and vindictiveness. The severity and the importance of understanding this has evolved over time. Back in biblical times, back in, I'm going to say the 1800s, 1700s, 1900s, research suggests that the topic of vengeance wasn't even spoken about. The topic of being vindictive wasn't even researched. Why? Because it was thought to be an evolutionary response to being slighted. It was thought to be this thing that most human beings do when they feel a certain way. But now that we've grown over time, we've understood people like Colt Gray, Adam Lanza, James Holmes, the person in your life who's just manipulating you and trying to hurt you, trying to change how people see you. We've learned over time, and we've become more knowledgeable, that people who seek vengeance, people who are very vindictive, there's something wrong at the core. It's a personality pathology. Something is going on, because they go from normal to abnormal within seconds, you know, and that is not a normal thing. Okay, before I go to the chat box, before I read your comments, guys, and wrap up tonight, let me just tell you what's going on here. Let me give you some insights, because these are probably behaviors that you've seen in your own family, your own relationship. The number one behavior, okay, backed by psychology, backed by research on vindictive people, and also my clinical experience with these kind of individuals. Let me also throw this in here briefly. I don't counsel vindictive, vengeful people because they need a provider, a healthcare provider who can devote 100% contact with them every session, being on top of them with therapeutic techniques, self-awareness, building skills, the list goes on. They are exhausting, and they're exhausting because of damage control. You have to control their mind, at least try to help them control their mind, at least try to control their mind with psychology, try to show them the consequences if they seek vengeance. You have to try to talk them down. You have to kind of maneuver things a certain way, talk to loved ones. Like, they are excruciatingly draining. So some therapists don't even take these kind of individuals on. But here's the number one thing that you're likely to see. They desire a very deep sense of power and control. That is why they come after you. That is why they ruminate, because rumination sometimes leads to the false obsession and belief that you are powerful. And so the more you think of something over and over and over, and you think out the details and you have everything lined up like you think it's supposed to go, that's a form of power. That's a form of dominance and control. They seek that. They seek that. Sometimes people who seek vengeance or they're very vindictive, they've experienced a narcissistic injury. We talked about this earlier. They want to, quote unquote, heal what they are feeling on the inside: shame, doubt, blame, anger, hate, whatever. They want to prove to themselves that they can heal those wounds, right? And if they have a narcissistic injury, they're likely to lash out. These individuals may present or present as, meaning they show themselves to the world to be A-OK, smiling, laughing, engaging, going on about life until one day they snap, until one day your boss calls you in the back office. You know, we need to talk. I got an email last night. This happened to one of my clients too, by the way, in the past. We got an email last night. It came in from anonymous. The email says that you had something to do with a sex ring. You kind of brought some minors to your home, and, I'm going to have the police investigate you. Your 15-year-old daughter's at stake here. And my client at the time was just like, how did this happen? I don't do this kind of stuff. What happened? Her brother that she turned into the police years ago for bringing drugs into the country, selling drugs to minors, the list goes on. She turned him into the police, and his vindication was to call her boss and to say that she was engaged in a sex ring, that she was engaging sexually with minors, that she had a 15-year-old daughter that was at stake. So there you have it. Sometimes they have a specified time that they are going to hit you, and they may visually present as okay. They may look like everything is okay on the outside. Perception is heavily relied on with these individuals. Don't expect to talk to a person who wants to seek revenge and get through. You may not get through. When they are in that obsessive mode of wanting to seek revenge, you're just a distraction. So they're going to silence you out, and they're going to forget what you're telling them because their perception is what they heavily rely on. They also tend to these are also individuals who tend to take things very personally all the time. They don't understand that person didn't hold the door open for you because they weren't thinking. That person over there had a really, really tough night at home. Their mom died, and they were trying to get through the night. They didn't want to cancel work, so they're at work. They're not ignoring you at work because you're a problem or they don't like you. They're just going through their own problems. They don't have that ability to process, right, guys? So they take things very personally. They tend to be reactive and overreactive. People who seek vengeance, they never think. They act first. That's just who they are. Hostility and access to means, access to weapons like Code Gray, or the brother who told his sister's boss that she had a sex ring, right? Access to means and internalized hostility is all that person needs. That's all they need. Sometimes means, in quotation marks, guys, are not guns. not weapons. Sometimes means could be social prowess, social recognition. Sometimes the means to hurt somebody is found in your name, in the job that you work. Oh, that's a police officer. He would never, you know? Or oh, no, he didn't engage in that vindictive behavior. He's an attorney, you know? So sometimes access to means, weapons, social status, self-importance, all of that can kind of get in the way, but it can be used. Highly narcissistic individuals, we talked about that. And let me throw out one last thing before I go to the chat box, guys. We talked about narcissistic individuals as being very vindictive, but sometimes individuals who want to seek revenge, they truly are at the core, no matter how abnormal it is, they are trying to seek what we call effective homeostasis. Effective homeostasis. Homeostasis is a concept of balance, right? It's equilibrium. Homeostasis. Everything is balanced and calm and in its proper way. It's aligned appropriately. Sometimes people who are vindictive, they feel like they have absolutely no balance, no equilibrium, no homeostasis until they get you back. And I once turned in a client for this very thing. Statement he said to me back in 2020 around COVID time, before we were all locked up and not able to go anywhere. He came into the office and said, I know I'm a new client, but I'm going to have to let you know, I'm going to have to kill my cousin tomorrow night because he, let my boss know some things about me that wasn't supposed to be told. And so I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to have to do it because I can't sleep without doing this. Of course, I had to call the police when he left and they arrested him and he's now still in prison for attempted murder. But effective homeostasis is what he was looking for. He wanted balance. He wanted to feel back in control. And vengeance was the way to do it. Okay, guys, heavy topic, right? Yeah, it's a heavy topic. Let me go to the chat box. Let me say, before I go to the chat box briefly, that tomorrow I will be talking about a family who lies. So we're talking about you being the victim of a family of lies, okay? And pathological liars and individuals who are close to you who lie. I'm going to tease apart the psychology of their mind so you understand why they do it, how they do it, when they think to do it, what's the reasoning, and what research says. Okay, guys, so stay tuned for tomorrow's live chat. Let me get at the chat box, and then we're going to wrap up. Adila says, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, says, my brother's vengeance has torn the family apart. He finds joy in creating chaos when things don't go his way. Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes, and I'm sorry that that's happening to you, sometimes a family member who does want to be vindictive, they will cause chaos. They'll wait till holiday time to do it. They'll wait to whisper a secret they shouldn't be talking about, Yeah. Maui Swift, I'm going to say that, says the FBI talked to him and his father. Then he bought him a handgun. Yeah, absolutely. We're talking about Colt Gray. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. Yep. Very negligent parent. They really should sit dad down and try to psychoanalyze what is wrong in there. What's wrong in here? I've heard people say the people about this case, they've said the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. That may be true, but we need to sit dad down and psychoanalyze him. We need to study his brain. What the heck is wrong with you? What is in your mind, right? Do you have anger issues? Do you have a problem? Were you a problem child? They really and honestly need to go back to his own childhood and see what happened there. Because I don't know why a parent and a dad at that, who's supposed to be protective, would put a weapon of that magnitude in the hands of a boy that has so many issues, right? Something seriously wrong there. And it starts with the dad. Napalm 1334, hello and welcome. Glad to have you in tonight's live chat as always. Arrow says, ironically, Brenda Anna Spencer was one of the USA's first homicidal schoolyard assassins. Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. Do your research, guys. That's an interesting study too. Jessica J, thank you so much for that. You know how migraines go from like migraines here to like the back of your eye pounding? That's how it feels right now. So we're going to wrap up, guys, in just a little bit. Silent Walk, hello and welcome. Glad to have you in tonight's live chat. Hurricane Gilbert says, found your channel yesterday. Your content is like therapy for my soul. Thank you so much. And that's such a humbling honor. Thank you. And welcome to the channel. Glad to have you. For those of you who haven't seen the join button yet, I recently rolled out memberships, and there's many reasons why. Let me just briefly throw this in here. Definitely not self-promotion, but I want to let you guys know it's possible to have on my channel memberships. If you love the channel, you want to stick out in the channel, you want to have access to me for consultations up to 3 times a year. If you want to be the person in the chat box that has an icon that points you out that says you're a part of my channel, that you support this channel, if you want me to get to your comments up front, if you want to be a priority, if you just want to show me your support, feel free to join my channel. There's different levels that you can join at different prices. I think they're pretty reasonable. Feel free to join my channel, guys. I'm always welcoming members. So just thought I would throw that out there. If you guys want to learn more, hit the join button on my channel. All the details are there for you. Stacy Del Buccia, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that again, says, what do you think of mind control in some cases? Well, it depends on what you're asking me, but I'm going to just take a shot at it. Mind control, an individual who seeks vengeance and is vindictive, they are seeking mind control, because here's what they're doing. They're saying, okay, you've wronged me, and so now I'm going to assert my authority upon you, and it's not going to be a good thing for you. So what I'm going to do is execute my plan. And so now I'm going to confuse you. I'm going to cause you to second guess your own behaviors. I'm going to pop up after 15 years of letting you think that that was over and done with. I'm going to report you to every police I can think to report you to. I'm going to report you to this board and that ethics board and that report board and that community board and that, because I want to get this word out that you've wronged me. And it's mind control. It's mind control. At some point, I can come on here maybe and teach you guys how to work around those kind of people, right? Because they need to know you're not in control here. You're not. Even though you think you are and you want to be, you're not. But, mind control is part of that game. And that's how they get that internalized stimulation that they seek, right? They want that sense of power and control, and it feels good to them up until the consequences hit them. And then they say, uh-oh, this wasn't worth it, right? Goddess is Messenger of Darkness. Ooh, that's screen name. Welcome to the live chat. Hello. Says, yes, please break down spite versus vengeance. Spite is basically, it's along the same order of vengeance, but I also think spite is a little less dramatic than vengeance. I feel like vengeance is more criminal. It's more emotionally reactive. It's more impulsive. Spite is kind of thought out. It's kind of that state before you do something to somebody that is not going to kill them. It's not going to hurt them. But you just want to get them back out of spite, right? I'm going to stand you up tomorrow night at that date I told you that we were going to go on together. I'm going to borrow that money off of you. And then when I borrow it, I'm definitely not going to tell you where I spent it. I'm going to ask to help you pay your bills, get your account numbers, and then change your password so you can't get in, just because I want to give you a headache. It's evil still, I think, but it's just not along those same lines of vengeance. I hope that makes sense, guys. I'll break it down even more in another live chat if you want me to. Danita Minor, hello and welcome. Glad to have you back in tonight's live chat. Says, how about the entitled factor with these kids? Absolutely, very entitled. Narcissistic personality. And you may have not been here when I mentioned earlier the kiddo that I had so many years ago that wanted to get mom and dad back, you know? Keep in mind, narcissism is often at the core of vengeance seeking and vindictive people. It's not always a psychopath and a sociopath. It's not always the Jeffrey Dahmers or the Colt Grays. Just to give you a modern day example, it's not always that. Sometimes it's narcissism. You've hurt moi. Okay, I'm wonderful. I'm great. And you're not going to offend me and get away with it because I'm going to get you back. It's very narcissistic in a lot of cases. E101, hello and welcome. Not sure what that question is referring to. I'm sorry. Maybe you're asking me what would they expect in terms of what do you expect if you act out? Yeah, a lot of them don't think that far. They don't. If that's what you're asking me, a lot of them can't think that far. A lot of them don't think that far. They react off of emotion. And sometimes individuals who seek revenge or they're vindictive, they seek a conclusion to a situation that they've created sometimes, right? The reason that you were broken up with or divorced is because of you. So how dare you spread rumors in the community about me just because you're mad because there's a divorce? You started this. The reason that you were terminated from your job, from treatment, from, a position you wanted was because of your doing, not because of anything the other person did. It's because of you. But sometimes these individuals are so impulsive, they're so emotional, they're so reactive that they don't compute that what has happened is because of something you did. It's not because of anything that other person has done. So good luck seeking vengeance on them because it's going to all come around to bite you when you find out you're the problem and you've been the problem all along. And sometimes that's what happens. I've seen it. It's awful to look at because the person doesn't see it coming. That's how foolish they are. T Max says, my vengeful brother took me in when I lost my home, threw me out after 2 weeks for no reason. A year later, I have a new apartment and now he's struggling. He called for help and I said no. Was I wrong? Woo, that's a tough one, T Mac. T-Mac. I'm going to tell you what I tell my clients. I can't give you my personal opinion on that. And I don't want to sway what you think of your decision because your decision is already made. You had a reason for making that decision. What I will say is this: you want to make every decision that you have to make knowing that, number one, there may be a consequence. Number two, maybe you could be wrong. And if so, you've got to be willing to live with that. Number three, you're going to likely suffer guilt if it was the wrong decision to make. Even if it was the right decision to make, you may experience guilt. Your immediate reaction to the situation is your immediate reaction. That's where it stands. And my clients, some of my clients hate when I say that, guys, because they're like, the advice, suggestions, help me understand. I'm not going to give you suggestions and advice on a thing that is really difficult because now I'm giving you my view. Now I'm imposing my values upon you and I'm not ethically supposed to do that. So T-Mac, I'm not going to take that position of telling you whether you were right or wrong. Just like when someone asks me in session, they're like, should I break up with him? Should I divorce her? My response is, what do you think you should do? Because I'm not going to give you a yes or no, because now I'm taking control of your life, and that's not what I'm here to do. What I can say, T-Mac, just to give you some solace, is you made that decision. He did it to you. You're obviously hurt about it or angry about it. You made the decision, and so now the decision is made. You have to live with that. Whatever that decision is going to bring. If you feel content with that decision, if you truly think that was the right thing to do, then you did the right thing. Some people need boundaries. Other people need grace. You just have to figure out when to use it, when not to use it. Nate, that was tough, T-Mac. You challenged my skills live. That was tough. Napalm 1334 says, what do you think of family systems that have vigilantism? Ooh. I feel like often I have seen friends, siblings think they could take the law into their own hands, and it actually backfires. Yeah, it does. Being being a vigilante to me is sometimes very narcissistic. It's like, who said you are the land of the law of the land? I said that backwards. Now you really know I have a migraine. Who makes you the judge? Who makes you the community organizer? Who are you? So it's kind of narcissistic, right, guys? I kind of think they're narcissistic and stuck up, but sometimes they're good to have around. It just really depends. I don't particularly like vigilantes because, they kind of like go around with this narcissistic self-entitlement or this entitlement, thinking that they have the right to watch everybody and everything. And that's just not, no. MN Odell, before we get ready to wrap up, guys, because this has been a very long chat tonight, MN Odell says, MNL Odell says, sadly, some of them find this kind of stuff entertaining. Yes, they do. They do. You're right. You're right. And one of my mentors years ago gave me a very wise thing of advice. He says to me, always keep in mind that people who want to seek vengeance, people who want to get back at you, people who want to stir trouble, troublemakers, people who want to spend their time thinking about getting somebody else back is an individual who absolutely doesn't have a life. Because if you think about it, you don't have too much time to kind of ruminate, to perseverate, to think, to process the wrong that you feel was done to you. You don't have time to do that if you have things to do, right? You're too busy running your mom to the hospital. You're too busy going to work. You're too busy doing this community event. You're too busy raising your kids. You're too bit, right? Some people say, you're not worth my energy. You're not worth me typing up a complaint. You're not worth me firing back at. You're not even worth me giving you any reaction to what you've done to me. You're not even worth me calling the police on, So I very much agree with that. Shannon Duncan says, these types of individuals feel the need to get back at their toddler children, like in a, oh, you're not going to do as I say, I'll show you type of person way. It's sickening. Sometimes they are like that. Yes. Yes. Lindsay Marie says, the insidious thing about imposter syndrome is that it is half true, but not completely true, that most people don't like me. Ooh. Okay, I'm not going to even touch that because that's going to introduce a whole thing that can keep us here till 9 p.m. We don't want to do that, guys. We don't want to do that, Lindsay Marie. I'm happy, though, to respond to that once this goes off in the comment section. Y101 says most problems are chemical imbalances. I have a research study in the description box for you guys that is a multi-view perspective of vengeance seekers. That has not been proven. That has not been proven. Can you believe that? People who are vindictive or people who seek vengeance, it has not been proven by research that there's a chemical imbalance of any sort. Now, is there a mental illness and a behavioral problem here? Probably, most likely, yes. Because remember earlier I said, self-protection, competitiveness, envy, interpersonal aloofness. Remember all those guys? Well, yes, mental illnesses, behavioral problems can also be in there. Oppositional defiant disorder is something else that could be in there. But research hasn't proven a chemical imbalance in individuals who are vengeful. That's how behind in the research we are. Silent Walk says, don't have to look far nowadays to find people like that. They're everywhere. That's so true. That's so true. Need to get over or merge in a lane in front of somebody who thinks they have the right to be first. Yeah. Arrow says, the viciousness of teenage girls against one another is an atrocity. So many young girls are afflicted with eating disorders, self-harm, and ending their lives due to bullying. Where are the parents? Yeah, absolutely. I agree to that. The parents are sometimes believing their kids are much better than they really are working long hours, are disinterested, have mental health and behavioral problems themselves, are incarcerated, or sometimes just strictly in the dark, you know? Yeah. My practice, practice in my office is treating children's, teenagers, families, family dynamics. And that's what I see for the most part. Ellie Wynn, hello and welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. Judith Barrett, hello, welcome. Glad to see you back in tonight's live chat. Yep. Judith says, just run as they escalate. Save yourself. I agree. Okay, I'm just scrolling. Marta Kaur says, late, but I'm here. Thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome. Always glad to see you as well. I'm just looking for comments, and we're going to wrap up, guys. Ronald Zion, hello and welcome. Glad to see you in tonight's live chat. Always glad to see you as well. Says, hi, Tam. This helps me understand the disturbing behavior of some family members. That's good to know, because it's hard to see our family members as vindictive, isn't it? Or wanting to seek revenge. But sometimes that happens. Sometimes it happens. Ryan says, that's exactly what my mother does. She's always lying. Yep, you're probably going to enjoy tomorrow's live chat for sure. Vestal Nombre, hello and welcome, says autism for me. I think you're responding to a comment I made earlier. Yeah. Okay. I'm just looking for people I haven't gotten to yet. Shannon Duncan says perseveration. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I just don't want to miss anyone before we sign off, guys. Looking. Mr. Frederick, hello and welcome to tonight's live chat. Says, I'm glad to see you again. Same here, glad to see you. Yeah, wonderful. He says, I have a whole family against me. Being a truth teller. Oh, not being a truth teller. I think that's what you meant. I think. Maybe. I hope I got that right. Yeah, you're probably going to enjoy tomorrow's live chat as well. So I welcome you back. Okay, Phoenix, hello. I'm just saying hello to you guys before we sign off. Phoenix, welcome. Glad to see you in tonight's live chat. Yeah, thank you so much. This week was rough. I hope you had a good week, though. Sun and Sunflowers, hello and welcome. Glad to have you in tonight's live chat. Dennis Robinson, hello and welcome. I'm going to read your comment because it relates to what we're talking about. Dennis Robinson says narcissism covers selfishness, envy, bad motives, jealousy, malice, and many other bad things. Very much agree to that. Very much agree. Teneblis Abysmos, hello. Just forgive me for future live chats and the past ones too. I always mispronounce your screen name, but welcome. Okay. Triple Lex, thank you so much for the super chat. Welcome. I did welcome you. Forgive me. I was going to say welcome to the live chat tonight, and I had to remember I talked to you earlier. Thank you so much for that. I'm glad that this is a helpful analysis for you. And thank you again for the live chat. Okay, just making sure I haven't missed anyone before I sign off. Christina LZ, hello and welcome. Glad to see you back tonight. Says, is it just to hurt you, or could it be used as repetitive control? It can be both. Yeah, it can be both. I'm going to leave it at that because tomorrow's live chat, I'm going to touch on that just a little bit, but it can definitely be both. Dee says, oh no, the rejected stalkers are all over social media. Yep, absolutely. Give It a Think says, these people are frightening. It is hard to come up with strategies other than no contact for dealing with them. Their lack of empathy and conscience is terrifying. Yes, it is terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. Yes, I agree. Nancy R., thank you so much. That's awesome. And you're welcome. I'm so glad. I love dropping new terms, right? Because it kind of helps you self-advocate, navigate this confusing world, right? So that's so good to hear. Thank you so much. Oh my God, you were looking at my cup. It says, you can't see it, can you? It says, simplify your life. That's literally what I have to tell myself every day. Don't complicate matters, just simplify your life. Thank you, longevity rituals. Thank you so much. Karen Kilbane says, hello and welcome to tonight's live chat. We're going to wrap up here in just a second. Says, I am separated from my husband who is brutally vindictive to me exclusively. Oh my goodness. He is in therapy, wants badly to change, but still flies into a rage whenever asked to take accountability. Any hope? I don't know. I wish I could say yes, but I don't have the details. If I had you in therapy, I could say, okay, here's what's going on. Here's what I see. Here's what I think. Is there hope? Probably the chances are slim. I don't know. See, but let me just say that if he wants to change and it's hard for him to change, then that means his behavior is deeply ingrained. And so he might need 2 therapists. He might need 3 therapists. He may need a psychiatrist and a psychotherapist. There's many different ways that treatment can go. He may also need to change the treatment approach that he's getting. Maybe he needs cognitive behavior therapy or anger management or dialectical behavior therapy. These are all approaches for people who get angry and struggle with management of their emotions. So that's rough. I'm sorry you have to deal with that. It may come a time where you have to walk away. I do want to throw that in there. Okay, guys, let's sign off here. I absolutely love your comments. I'm so appreciative of how engaged you guys are, what your comments are. Thank you for always being such a vibrant community. I totally love it. I hope to see you guys back tomorrow. I'm going to talk about what it's like to live in a family who lies. And we're not talking about just mom and dad who lie. We're talking about mom and dad, cousins, siblings, and how that impacts you over time. Will it ever change? I can also give you that information as well in tomorrow's live chat. So thank you so much for tonight. I hope this was very helpful. Let me know in the comment section if you have any further questions or comments. I'm going to be reading them for after the next 2 hours. I'm going to be back in the chat, just kind of responding to all of you. So I hope to see you tomorrow. Have a good Friday night, guys. Bye-bye.